Okay. Hello, and welcome to this panel discussion on DevOps with members of IBM Software Group team. We're offering this as an informal and brief way for you to hear directly from some of IBM's top leaders. Who are the panelists for our discussion today? I'm Bill McHenry, the team manager for IBM Software Group's DevOps Center of Competency. Also on the panel is Monica Luke, who is a senior technical team lead for IBM Software Group Center of Competency. A wave for Monica. Okay. Daryl Rader is the community guy and is a manager for IBM Software Group's Rational Services organization. He's helping to facilitate this discussion. So who are we questioning for this discussion today? Christian Holtje is a senior DevOps engineer and part of the IBM Watson organization. And there you go. And Nathan Bak is a DevOps Adoption architect and build packaging specialist and part of IBM's Rational Software organization. Christian and Nathan will share their experiences in implementing and supporting DevOps activities for IBM. So let's start by talking about adoption of Agile as a precursor to DevOps and the cultural changes needed to take the leap. Now, I'm going to pose that question to you, Christian, so you can tell us a little bit about your experience in that area.
Yes. So when I first joined the company Vivismo, when before we became part of IBM, we were very actively looking for ways to improve our development methodology, and so we started reaching out for things like Agile and Lean. We went through a whole bunch of iterations. We did Scrum, etc. And when it started coming time that we realized that we had enough infrastructure that it actually made a difference how it was managed, etc., then the Agile stuff really kind of helped us adopt it. We didn't know about DevOps. We were just doing DevOps just because we were applying Agile and Lean to everything else. I also have some experience with some other groups inside IBM that worked in more traditional waterfall models, and they weren't Agile, and we had to kind of give them a crash course in Agile as well as DevOps all at the same time, which has been entertaining, but it's worked. So,
Nathan, so how about your experience?
So I've seen, IBM's a big company, and I've seen a lot of different teams adopt Agile, and sometimes it comes from the bottom up where a team decides that they want to do Agile, and they pick it up and figure out what works for the team, and that's always been very successful. Sometimes there's more established teams, and they have Agile pushed down on them, and nobody really likes change when it's forced upon them, and often a lot of Agile is figuring out what works and what's effective, and if that's dictated, then usually it's not what's most effective for the team. But a lot of if teams don't want to do Agile to begin with, you kind of have to sneak it up on them and give them some good Agile practices, but don't tell them it's Agile, and instead just show them what works. And they're not stupid. When they see something that works, they pick up on it and they start doing it, and then eventually you say, hey, you're doing Agile, and they'll say, okay, well, but we don't want to call it that.
Yeah, in user interface type designs, you call that kind of an affordance. You make it so that they have a choice between doing it a painful way and an easy way, and they'll choose the easy way. And if you make the easy way be the more successful way, the way you want things to go, then things work better. With the other group that I worked with, that was definitely the case. There was a lot of grumbling and stuff about why are you doing this, etc. They knew something was wrong with the way they were doing things. They were real major pain. So they were willing to look at other things, but that didn't mean they had to like it. But for example, we got them up on continuous integration where they started getting feedback from their projects within 5 to 20 minutes, depending on the size of the component, and as opposed to having to wait 3 to 5 hours for the entire thing to build and find out if their code was good or not. And that change really started making people react positively to it. You started getting developers going, oh, I need this build to be faster because I can't stand waiting for 20 minutes. I want 15. Or, oh, look at the test counts on this. My tests are only so much are passing, etc. So I need some better tests for this so that I can look better compared to the other components.
You're touching on something that I think is kind of ironic, right? If you, to Nathan's point, you sort of mandate from the top down, do Agile, and you might get a lot of resistance, but the idea of failing early, which is a key Agile tenet as well as a key DevOps tenet, really actually makes everyone's life better, and once they start to notice that, they're all in. And you know what they always say about developers is that they automate things because they're lazy, right? Mm-hmm. They don't want to have to do it twice. So that combination of automation and failing early is a really powerful set of steps that gets you on that. We were talking earlier a little bit about some of the challenges for culture, and I think having some successes gets people to buy in a lot faster.
Well, one of the big culture changes with this other group was that because they had to wait 5 hours or so, basically they could do at most 3 builds a day of the big builds. And because of that, it meant that when you broke something, the big build, then everybody yelled at you and you got in huge amounts of trouble. Whereas with the new system, mistakes were painless. And I kept repeating that over and over again to management, everybody. Mistakes are now not only okay, they're desirable. And that was a huge culture shift. And they're still dealing with that because there's still a lot of people that are like, OMG, I can't do this. I don't want to break something. And it's like, no, you can now. It's okay.
And it's cheaper to break it early. Sorry, Bill.
How has the cultural transformation come along in your space, Nathan? Do you see any residual issues, or is it things moving along well?
The cultural transformation goes differently for different teams. I've generally found that with a smaller team, it goes more smoothly than with a broad distributed team. And also, a lot of Agile and DevOps practices work a lot more smoothly if you can get everyone together in a conference room. But IBM, we're an international company, we're a big company. Some people, work from home. I've got a cube where I can go and sit and, be next to other IBMers, but I don't work directly with any of them. And so for those more distributed teams, it seems more difficult for them to adopt some of these sorts of practices. And it takes a little bit longer, and really tooling can help. And there's a lot of technology out there to improve communication and things like that. But just being able to track and communicate, if you go into a conference room, you can easily write stuff up on a whiteboard and make changes really quickly. And those sorts of conversations are a lot more difficult to have when everyone's across the world in different time zones and in different places. And from what I've seen, those sorts of teams are the ones that have more difficulty embracing DevOps.
Yeah.
Just a couple more minutes before we wrap this up. So.
Okay. Well, I was going to say that one of the things I tried to get them on, but didn't really succeed that much, was IRC. Not because IRC is great, but because the persistent chat rooms is really useful. Direct person-to-person communication tools aren't that useful for bringing a group together because you want something where people can drop in and join again. There's a whole bunch of tools out there for this, like Campfire, etc. I'm sure there's a lot other tools that do the same sort of thing, and that's a useful way to bring people from remote locations together because then they can see what's going on and ask each other for help.
Well, and I would argue that what we're doing right now is starting to fall into that camp. The fact that we can see each other while we're talking. There's some teams that I've heard about that actually are setting up cameras that point at team areas so that remote team members can know when they can do the virtual tap on the shoulder to spend some time with someone, etc. So there's lots of things happening to hopefully make this a little bit better. But there's no question it's harder when you're distributed, and it's part of the reason that within IBM we have a lot of challenges because our teams tend to be distributed.
Yeah, I know there's a couple local companies here that, for example, have a persistent TV screen and camera set up in front of some couches, so they can just walk by and they see somebody they want to talk to, they can just sit down and chat with them, and it's set up right in the middle of the dev area, so people are always walking by. So if somebody sees somebody, they can go, "Hey, so and so," and they'll come over to the TV and talk.
The virtual water cooler.
Yes.
All right. Well, it does. I do think we're at the end of our little 10-minute spot here. So, hey, thanks Christian and Nathan and Monica and Bill for joining us. And Bill, you have anything final to say?
No, just thanks to the panelists and thanks to the listeners. We'll call it a close and we'll say to stay tuned, and there'll be more like this coming down the pipe. So thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.